Hi, Kash. Hi, Boone.
Hi, Mark.
Morning, Mark.
Nice presentation just now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's different than what everybody else is doing. So it's like going.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a different market, but I feel like it's good that if you're just doing what everybody else is, then it's kind of harder to be the best at it. So
yeah.
I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I hope so.
And it sounds like you have a good number of partners that you're talking to and customers that this is all inspired by. So
Well,
I guess that is a good sign.
I think some people are getting it, right? Which is just look at the pain of it sounds so easy, right? You get these die and you put them on a substrate and you sail into the sunset, right? So
yeah. That's true. So it sounds like you have a steady stream of announcements. Like you mentioned, there's going to be more coming this year.
Yeah, we're going to announce our RISC-V with AI solution, right, as a chiplet.
Okay.
Partner at I think there's a RISC-V summit in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I can talk offline with you on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give it one more minute or so to see if anybody else is joining, and then we can get started on the document. I did have the time to read through it a little bit more and make some changes, and wanted to discuss those with the group so that we can hopefully streamline it a little bit.
Yeah, I have to head out at about 9:40 today. I have to.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Go to another meeting, so I apologize for that in advance.
Also, I did talk to Irina and got her thoughts. She said that she wasn't available the next couple Fridays, but if there was anything urgent that I could reach out to her. But it seems like she's already been helping with some of these sections, and I don't think there's anything on her end to change. Hi, Majid.
Hi there, first time here.
Yeah, thanks for joining this one here. So do you, I guess you probably know some people on the call, but if you want, I can give you like a 1 minute kind of overview of what we're trying to do here in the business group.
Sure.
So we've been, I think, meeting for probably around like 6 months now, and the thing that we have been doing for the majority of the time is writing or first thinking about what to write for white paper, and now writing a white paper that's specifically focused on kind of like business aspects of chiplets. We've gotten quite a few people that have contributed sections, and now we're in the phase of, I think, like streamlining the document, looking at any, like, say, gaps that we may have, and then hopefully wrapping this up in the next month or two. At least that's my goal.
Great, thanks. Good
Sure.
stuff.
Hi, DJ. So I think
Hi,
with that,
sorry, I was on mute. Hi, good
okay,
morning.
hey. Yeah, did you hear what I was just summarizing to Majid, or should I say it one more time?
Is that question for Majid or me?
For you, if you want to, like, I know you've also been, it's been a while that you joined in. If you want me to just give you a quick update on where we stand right now.
Yeah,
or if you heard that.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I just told Majid that we were quite far, like I would say reasonably far with the white paper that we've been aiming at writing. The goal initially, I think, was to look at the aspects that are not typically covered in these like intro to chiplets white papers. I mean, they're many of them out there, and I can share my screen here. We are referencing to some of them because we don't want to just repeat what has already been well summarized. But what we thought we could bring to the table is, or I can go to the outline here maybe. What we thought we could bring to the table is to look more at the cost/business intersection of the process of deciding whether a chiplet architecture makes sense or not. And so we basically went through many of the blocks that you see in other papers covered too, and our document in total is at about 30 pages. We have an introduction, a discussion of chiplet, like possible chiplet architectures, a little bit about die-to-die interfaces, but we want to reference there to Shahab's work, something about packaging, but again, kind of like trying to show the intersection of packaging and what that means for the, or if you go from this is your application, this is your your bandwidth need, this is your possible interface choice, and then what do you have to do in terms of packaging, and then that gets you to some kind of cost for your project. And so the goal that we came out, or that we set out initially, was to say those groups that are thinking about should they use a chiplet approach for an upcoming product line, or like one or a couple products, how would they go about making that decision? What things are do they have to factor in? And so the goal was to summarize something where we're giving more detail than just like a manager would need, but probably less than if you were just focusing, say, on known good die or interfaces, but having something in between and referring people to the right places so that they can, in the end, have a kind of a blueprint of how to work through this decision of can we employ chiplets. So, and for today's meeting, I wanted to go through a couple of these sections here. So in the last few meetings, we had the authors of those subsections talk about what they had written and gotten some feedback. I think we have some sections that look pretty good. Others where we probably still need to do a little bit more wording that are more in just bullet form right now. And over the next couple meetings, that's kind of the goal, to just continuously polish this document until then it's like one cohesive story in the end.
Sorry, a quick
Okay.
question. Sorry, Majid here.
Yeah.
There was a work done that was very interesting by, it was a chiplet cost model, quite extensive a while back.
Yes.
Taking advantage of that, I assume, in 21.
Yeah, so we have that in here, like it's just a page or so, but we're referring to that document, and so far it's just a screenshot off the calculator. But I would also put in, like, I know they published, like, there are like recorded talks and like a paper in the IEEE, I think, about the mathematical background. So I was going to refer all of that or link to all of that in this paper here.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sure. Okay, so we can maybe start from the top. One thing I did was to go through this whole document and just write down the number of pages that we have per section and what to me seems like reasonable, but that's open for discussion. So I just have here like this column proposed. So I wanted to, I can maybe first like say about how I came to these numbers, and then I get feedback on whether that seems achievable or not. So as I mentioned, we have about 30 pages right now. I feel like that is a little bit on the long side, and to me something like just trying to distill the essence and getting that down to 20 seems like doable. So that's kind of how I came up with that one. And then I was trying to look at all the sections that we have, and also like making sure that basically we don't have any section that's like vastly outweighs the rest. And so I've already started working on this on the die-to-die side, where I toned it back a little bit because I think there is more information like out there that I can reference to. I went through the chiplet architecture side, and it looks like a couple of points are being made multiple times, so I think we can condense that. For packaging, I know right now we have it's very long, and what I like about it is that we have I think more insight than you find in the typical white paper. So this was one of the things that I think Trent did a really good job summarizing. So I would keep this a little longer than the rest, but still maybe bring it down a little bit from the 9.5 pages right now. So maybe just on these first couple ones, like what do people think about kind of the goal of reducing the length of the paper a little bit, and the like goals that or like the proposed page counts that I've put on here?
This is Trent. I'm okay with it, Merrick. I think that
Okay.
it won't be a problem to cut down the packaging section, especially.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
agree. 30 pages is a little long, for white paper. So
Yep. Marek, I agree. This is Anu. Sorry, I've been out of it for 2 weeks, but
Oh no, it's all good. Yeah.
yeah. So I think reducing to 20 pages is definitely better. 30 is, I would be like, holy crap, I got to read a 30-page paper. 20
Yeah.
seems so much more reasonable, suddenly.
Okay.
So yeah, so I can look at our section and see how to reduce it.
Okay.
I think Irina's not on the call today, but I can work with her to make sure we cut that down.
Yes. So I did talk to her briefly yesterday, and she said that she currently had like conflicts and wasn't able to join in the near term, but that we could still reach out to her about questions.
Okay, yeah, I have her email. So
Okay, excellent.
yeah, thanks.
Is this document shared, the link?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Let me put that in here. Yeah, absolutely. That is. Let me do this right now. And if I can, I'm happy to make more people authors like on the document, so that you can, if you want to, first of all, participation is highly welcome. Any thoughts, even if you just, if you have a little bit of time and read through some sections of your expertise, or even others that you want to know more about, and leave some comments or propose some paragraphs that you want included, that's very welcome. So let me know if you want to be added, as in, like, I think right now it's set that everybody can view it, but people that are not authors can only suggest changes and not put them in directly. Okay. So does that link work for everyone? Okay,
Yeah.
I see more people joining, so that, I guess that's a yes. Okay, so then going a little bit further here, the test and probe. I'm Rajesh. Oh yeah, you're on the line. Do you mind? We talked a little bit about
Yeah.
last time. How's your
Yeah.
any of your own progress on this?
Yeah. So actually, I'm in the other spectrum of this paper reduction. Instead of that, I need to add. So actually, I did, thanks to Boone, who is online, Chang.
Yeah.
He did give me 2 references, which I definitely wanted to read before I start adding, because there's one excellent work done by PowerPC, Somerset PowerPC Center back in 90s by Magdi about test cost model. And then
Okay.
second paper came from University of Reading in UK, and they have done a very similar amount of work in the beginning, 2002 timeframe. So all these were sort of MCM related test cost modeling, and I absolutely got thrilled. I mean, I just wanted to, I've gone through both the papers, and they can be definitely used as a reference for my idea about extending that model for chiplets. So
Okay.
give me some, I mean, last 2 weeks I was swamped. So maybe this weekend I can now put the stuff. So from current page 1, it can go to definitely 2 is fine, because I agree with you, 20 pages is fine. So in this, I
Okay.
can just, translate and extend that model with
Okay.
sort of chip level versus module level and the rework level. That's the three levels cost they are talking about. So I can add some stuff and make sure that I can also refer to 1838, which is a sort of 3D standard from IEEE. So that is, I have some other
Yeah.
reference from synopsis paper which came in IEEE design for test. So these are the three of my references I'll put, and then I'll make it work.
Okay.
Basically make it sort of 2 pages required.
Yeah.
Rajesh,
Yeah.
I have a question. One of the places that I'm struggling a bit with is just for our stuff here is this concept of sacrificial pads. Because in order to produce supposedly known good dye or pretty good dye or partially good dye or whatever the heck we want to call it, they've got to be tested to a certain reasonable extent, where you know that your system isn't going to be at a 50% yield or something. Do we address any of that? I know that today there isn't the probe technology doesn't exist in a lot of places to probe a 20, the micro bumps at the 40 micron pitch. But I know that some companies can do it. Can we sort of predict a trend? Because just if you think about it, if I'm going to go ahead and design, I'm going to provide recommendations in my company for chiplets, I do need to tell them you got to have these blasted sacrificial pads. They occupy this additional area. You need so many power and grounds depending on if you're doing at speed testing or not. And here is the impact of doing it, and it is an impact which needs to be calculated. Versus saying, oh, not a problem, we can probe all of these micro bumps. You don't need any sacrificial pads, and there's no additional area impact and stuff. So is that something we could address, or maybe that shouldn't be the focus here? Just a thought.
No, that's a good thought, Ren. I know. I think I also involved in CDX paper, which I'm writing with another mentor graphics expert. So he does talked about sacrificial pads, and mostly I've not seen that in a sort of our literature IEEE, but mostly it's come from industry and actually folks like you. So I need to do, actually, to be very frank, I need to do more research on my side to,
Okay.
I mean, I understand the final end goal with the 25 micron at macro ball and all these advanced packaging. There's no way we can get AT to touch, and everything is becoming either optical or built-in self-test. So I can, that's a good pointer. I can think over this and give me some time to respond to your query.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sacrificial pads are actually, they actually in 3D, they are actually at the boundary of the bottom die. And that's how, that's what I think Mentor Tessent tool is suggesting. But I need to get some more information.
Okay, Rajesh, if you could point me to the CDX paper, if it's shareable at this point.
It is actually, we are actually in final version of reviewing. Actually, that will be, it should be published. I mean, if you are on ODSA, then you should have access. But I don't know. I'll request.
I think Tony Mastrioni.
Tony, correct.
Yeah, I know
He's
Tony
also,
well.
Yeah, so
if
you can
just
And the other guy, James, can help me. James, so who is our coordinator on our CDX meeting? James?
Is it David?
Yeah, David, correct. David is the
I can
co-author.
point you to the draft paper if you're interested. Since you are.
Thank you, James. I would appreciate that.
Sure, yeah.
It's just it's an important topic. Like Rajesh said, there isn't enough literature on it, and everybody is doing their own thing. Some people like Intel have the capability, I know. But what about everybody else, right? And I haven't found too many people talking about it yet. I think it's important to address.
Yeah, we can send the link.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Marek. So please wait at least for this Saturday, Sunday. I mean, this weekend, I'll try to get some
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
3 of the
Thanks for-
references updated. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Like I like that that thought. And if you have any, even if you can, like if you have any additional thoughts on this, it may be worth even just like putting in a couple of questions, like what specifically are you thinking about, or how are you currently seeing the problem, and then we can maybe that will help Rajesh kind of also find answers to the specific questions that you have.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds
And
good, Marek.
I have one question, Marek. This I know in packaging section, I see a lot of very good drawings. I think Trent added, or I mean, so much good drawing. All those are need to be created from scratch, or are we allowed to reference a good picture and put it here with due credit, or we have to?
Yeah, so I think at least for the final release, I'll have to study up on that myself. My assumption right now is that, or my goal would be that for images that are public, that before releasing this white paper, that we would get consent from whoever we're like taking images from. But I think especially if something is already well drafted, then I think at least as long as we're working on this, I would say just put it in. And in the worst case, at least what I've done like in my day-to-day job otherwise is to then, if it's too hard to get the approval, to just draw something yourself that like takes the kind of the same ideas as from a graph where you have drawn everything yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take the same approach. There's a few references I included, so it's gonna come down to whether we need to get permission to use those, or in some cases they're pretty publicly available as long as we reference it. But in some cases, I think I'll have to reproduce it, a reasonable facsimile myself.
Understood. Thanks.
Okay, so then I can go continue in the list here. So the cost structure section currently is 3 pages, and I think we can also keep it at that, just because right now there's one aspect that I would still like to include, which means maybe compressing the rest a little bit. One of the things I personally find helpful would be if we have a section on the quantifying the time to market benefit of chiplets. And I've seen a couple of references, but I haven't had the time to write this up yet. So that is some of my homework that I want to get done hopefully for next week. And then I think otherwise we have the other benefits, or like the other aspects of cost structure, such as the chiplet calculator, like that we already have in there. So I think that's good. For the marketplace, Akash, I'd seen you already added a good section there. I think that's about 4 pages right now. The reason why I think we can probably get it down to 2 is that we could, like, I've seen you have an aspect on known good die. I would probably move that over to the test and pro, so that it's there, and then you can maybe in your section just reference and say we need known good die as described in probe and test or something like that. And this way, then we get to about or maybe that is also going to be something like 3 pages. We'll see how it fits. But I think right now we have a lot of like 2 big images, and maybe we can put those side by side, and then we would be able to reduce that down a little bit too.
Yeah. Well, however you feel good.
Okay.
You're the editor stuck with making it look good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and then we have standardization. That one, I think, James, that's the one that you wrote. I think we could maybe also, if you could take a stab at just trying to and I have this as a broader discussion a little bit later, but one thing when I was reading through all these sections was to make sure that we always have a little bit of a keeping in mind that this is ultimately about the business aspect / like financials. So for some of these, I'm wondering if we need all the detail, or if we just mention these are the standards and this is what's going on, and maybe reducing it a little bit, and then having something more in terms of cost implications wherever it makes sense.
Sure, I can look into Trimmer. Actually, I think I just added that model standardizations on top of the data format. So I think that's why it used to be like under 2, but now it's more than
Right.
2. But I can
Yes.
trim it down to close to 2. That's not an issue.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay, and so then the last one is the next steps, where we have some thoughts on this already, but I think we could add a little bit more. And we had discussed this over the last couple meetings. After having so many sections, I think it's important to give the reader kind of perspective of, given everything that we just wrote down, what does that mean? How do you go forward? And so I think we could add a little bit there to leave the reader with kind of a sense of action rather than overwhelming them with details. Any other thoughts or questions on this? Okay, so then the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the title. I had for now chosen something fairly generic. And I think originally when we started writing this, it was all about the business aspects. Looking at the paper itself, there is a fair amount of technical content in it. So I'm wondering how to reconcile that, and also like that we at least are intentional about to what degree do we want this to be oriented towards business / cost aspects, and to what degree do we want the technical side in there. What any opinions on this?
You're just asking for title, or sorry?
Yeah, so and this ultimately then comes down to the title. Like if for right now, I basically said, well, we do have technical stuff in there, but it is also about basically explaining to people how, like, what they have to consider. So I just put in technical and business aspects. Also happy to use another word besides aspects, but I think once we have that clarity of mind, then I think the title is easier. So that's why I said title / like, what is our intention here?
I would just like to see business first, business and
Okay.
technical aspects rather than technical and business. I think business and technical is a better.
That's already a good
I
suggestion.
agree. Actually, that exactly came to my mind too. Perfect.
I would go stronger, and I would just sort of even actually consider depopulating technical content which is not relevant to making a business decision.
Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of I think I like that we have it in there to some degree because they're strongly linked. So if you can't really talk about, for example, packaging cost until you understand what options do you have, and that's then kind of related to how do you want to build your system. But yeah, I think that's the challenge. To what degree do we want to add technical details? So you would vote for making it like only the essential, only anything to justify the business aspect, basically.
Personally, yes.
Yeah, but Bapi, I
perhaps you
dispute.
can
The
use the
technical
words business analysis aspect of building. So when you do the business,
I think building is redundant. So I always like
directly cover those
one. You could just do business. I like technical as well because it is technical of chiplet-based systems, and then I think it kind of works.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're really closely linked. Vapi, how do you say that they're not, like, the technical doesn't matter? They're tied together.
Yep. No, unfortunately, packaging is a huge part, right? Because of the cost and
Right.
everything else.
Yeah.
And it's confusing, right? So I think it's really good in this paper to explain that what Trent has done, right? Explain these different options and performance and cost, and they're all intrinsically linked here.
Well, I'm not advocating losing the technical content. I'm advocating filtering the technical content to limiting those that we think directly influence a business decision, not necessarily to, so maybe explaining the impact of a technology rather than the technology itself. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying toss it out. I'm simply saying you don't want to explain, as an example, Bo, if I take up the topic, I'm saying you don't want to sort of say like, okay, Bo has 16 bits per slice, but you do want to say you face a choice of either either going for organic packaging, which gives you these trade-offs, or advanced packaging, which gives you these attributes of better higher density, but costs you in package development complexity. I'm not saying leave it out. I'm simply saying examine it through the filter of how it's relevant to making a business decision. That's it. It was an opinion. You guys are free to ignore it, right? Just like...
No, I understand. I just felt like disagreeing with you, Bapi, this morning. So
Why did you say this morning? That's kind of like makes it sound unique. Because I think there's always a danger of because we like the technology of just getting into the details of the technology. That's about it. I think there's a very valuable service from this paper for here is the sort of cost and revenue trade-offs. And even if we're less aware of them, I think that's okay.
Okay.
I think we
Yeah, no,
need to.
I think in essence, I agree that that we want to make sure that we don't try to make too many points and then lose the reader halfway because they're not sure like why we're saying all this. So, and I think one maybe elegant solution would be to make good use of the appendix and say, if you want, like if we just refer to like certain technologies and they want to know, well, what is this, that they can immediately look it up, but that we don't explain too much, so that if somebody says like, I don't care like what it is, I just want to know how it impacts our numbers, that they can also do that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the motivation is whatever Trent outlined. I don't know, it was in a meeting 4 months ago now where he said, I can't even make a business case for 4 divisions that want to all use roughly the same CPU to work together. I think that was that was your statement, right, Trent, from 4 months ago, something?
I'm sorry, what was the statement?
When you made a presentation to the main group, you said something to the tune of, sometimes we can't even get 2 business units in the same company, even though they're using almost the exact same chip, to share their IP in the form of a chiplet. Something along those lines is what stuck in my memory.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly that. I think that the challenge was, putting the chiplet interface on the IP, right? Because that's essentially adding a little bit of area, right, that we may or may not use. And so that's been the problem is getting even within the same company saying, okay, I'm going to have this Ethernet PHY and it's going to be in a chiplet, right? Because it's, for the most part, we're going to be putting it just in an SoC. And so it's having that strategy, right, where we're going to have the strategy that we're going to go create these different PHYs and cores and maybe IO chips as chiplets, and then across the company we can kind of mix and match, and it's the same thing across the industry, right?
I think the weight of business and technology in the previous title or the current title is goes against what I heard in the beginning, that really is about business, but somehow because if you look at the content, there's a lot of technology, then you have to reflect that otherwise. So yeah, something like the second title that was put in, it's interesting. So
okay, yeah, so I put this here for everyone to see. Boone was suggesting another option here to say business analysis of chiplet-based systems design. Any thoughts on which one people like more?
The word design is a bit not in line with what's being done here, I suppose.
Yeah, okay. Any other, like a counter offer?
You could throw in the word technology at end somehow, would be good.
Okay.
I just put one more. I mean,
Business
somewhere we
analysis.
end. I mean, I know it's a business case. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely. But if you want to agree with some other comments, earlier comments, then you just put some technology trends because they are definitely going to be evolving. And we do not have to, as Bobby said, we don't have to emphasize that. Just make a business case for that.
Okay. So
Put it in the chat.
yeah. Business analysis of chiplet-based systems. And so you're saying business analysis of chiplet-based systems and technology trends, or is like, or because you're saying on? So I think I like the analysis part more than just the aspects that at least goes a little bit more, like if you read through the introduction or what I had written there, I think that is at least the goal of the paper. So like putting that directly in the title is good.
I think
So then
you could, yeah, you could remove what you have, just replace design with and trends.
Okay. Business
Because
analysis of chiplet-based systems and
trends, I don't know. Oh yeah, system trends maybe. I don't.
Or technology.
Yeah, then
Maybe
it becomes
technology
mouth.
trends.
Yeah, it becomes mouthful.
Oh, chiplet-based systems and technology.
Yes, maybe it's and technology, right?
Yeah, because you're analyzing the technology, right, from a business perspective. So I like
Yeah, I
like
thought
this.
that.
This is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
good.
Okay. Okay, well that's some teamwork right here.
I think it should be systems, not system.
Yep.
This is great. Now we got all the buzzwords on one sentence.
Okay, mission accomplished.
Accomplished, yeah.
Well, we have to put generative AI.
Oh,
in there.
AI, yeah. We have to put AI and ML somewhere.
Otherwise, it's not up to date at the
Not
moment.
I mean, we could always throw in 4 AI applications, and then people are like, "Oh, okay, now I'm listening."
I think it would be good to start drafting the executive summary. Then it starts to really pull things together.
Yes, yeah, no, I think that is a good thought. So I haven't put this in the outline yet, but that was our thought as well, to have like a 1 or 2 page summary, maybe. I'm not sure if we can fit all of this into 1 page. Like what would people recommend in terms of length, or what have they seen be effective in other documents?
You could take 2 approaches, I suppose. One is sort of a 1 paragraph teaser, or you could make it more of a summary. I think for the new era reader, a paragraph would be great to say what
So
this
basically
is
like
about.
an abstract, like a typical paper abstract, like 300 words or something.
Correct.
And then
what is
like
why they should look at this, right?
Yeah. No worries, Kash.
That's my vote, but I'm sure other people may have a different opinion.
No, but I think this is even for at some point, I think you have to write that very short version anyway. Like if you put this, say, on a website and people you want people to click on it, like I think it is a good idea to have maybe even like a 3-stage like length available, so that you can give something to people very quickly, even in an email, to say like, this is what the paper is about. You can decide if you want to read it. Yes, I like that idea. So maybe add here.
Oh no, Trent, I wasn't imagining it. So you did this talk on February 17th on business issues with chiplets with NXP.
Uh-huh.
And in there you had, I'm looking at my notes, and you said, and I think that was a big motivation for, at least at my end, for this group, was you're not able to articulate the benefit of reusing chiplets across business lines.
Correct. Yes. Uh-huh.
And a large part of that was just the way the businesses were organized.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah, instead of taking like a holistic view of the entire corporation, the businesses are really looking at, okay, this is what this is my cost to tape out this chiplet, and here's here's the revenue that I'll generate for my particular business. Right, and it's not necessarily taking into account that, oh, this chiplet could be used over an edge processor or whatever, and there's additional revenue that could offset the cost of the mass set, for example.
okay,
So true. Yes.
Okay, so I guess my question for the white paper is, how many of the business issues that were sort of highlighted in, I'm looking at it, I think we had business issues all the way from January through the middle of March, looking at the notes.
Yeah.
How many do you think are there, is there a subset addressed by this paper, I guess is my question.
A subset, I would say yes. Like all of them, definitely not.
Oh, that's fine.
I think one of them, the one that like I had done this cataloging of which ones came up a lot, and I think the interfaces came up. So I think interfaces and packaging came up as like kind of uncertainty around what do you need and what's a good way to go. And then also the decision making, I think, did also come up. So that to me at least was the reason to write this paper, to say, how do you make a decision? And then that kind of goes back into, well, you need to know a certain amount about like what your options are, and in the end, people will want to make money with this. So you have to explain why this is a good idea.
Okay, so then my bias would be to write the introduction and organize the content around which questions that came up in the business workstream are relevant.
Okay.
And then organize the sections around that, saying this is how it contributes to answering those questions.
Yeah.
That would be my bias, I guess, is all I'm saying.
I mean, it's certainly like, it's a good idea now that we have this document to go back and double check. And then, because one of the items on my list, at least mentally, was checking for gaps. And I think that is a good document to say, well, what is something that people want to know about and we could easily incorporate here.
Right, because the Trent one just somehow stuck in my head for some weird reason about not being able to make a reuse business case.
I mean, I think the internal company politics and how do you count, like how do you basically count ROI, for example? Do you do that by product line or business unit, or especially when you want to use chiplets across the whole company, how do you organize that? I think that would be maybe not what we can address here, but if we can at least give people an idea of, for example, like this question of the time to market or the reuse and how that changes the financial projections, I think that we are addressing, and that is something that business units can use.
Right, but it was, yeah. So anything where we can tie it back to, hey, we had this information vacuuming stage that in early part of the year, and these are the questions that surfaced, and this white paper is going to help you answer some of those questions.
Yeah. Okay, no, I like that. That is a good idea.
All right, Anu, go criticize that idea. Let's see you do that now.
But I think this idea of why departments don't use in the typical chip company, maybe it's also can be addressed by saying you have to really rethink product building across the company with the chiplet in mind, and then everybody their needs are addressed. Otherwise, why one department doesn't use is because their needs are. So rethinking the whole product life cycle and system building is how based on chiplets. So that's maybe
Oh,
something.
that's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, Majid, early in the year, January through March 2023, we had about 10 companies present on their business challenges with chiplets, and that's where this list came from. I have them in the Marek put together a really wonderful deck summarizing the findings from those presentations.
Okay.
So linking back to that would be a good thing in my mind. So
yeah. Yeah, and we already have. I think at least in two sections, I'm referring to exactly that point, that partially chiplets only make sense as a strategy that has to be kind of at a high level. But I think like weaving in that point a couple of times of saying it's not just if you just compare one product, monolithic versus chiplet, most likely you will always come back to saying let's continue doing monolithic. Unless you have like your clear like yield issues and things like that, where it becomes like kind of a no-brainer to do chiplets. So I had one other aspect that I wanted to talk about, which comes, which is, I guess Anu can talk about.
Just on that last point,
yeah,
where you said it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer where we sit right now, but to Kash's point in terms of what he made in the ODSA meeting.
Yeah.
If all those chiplets exist, all of the IO chiplets and their Lego-like, it'll be a no-brainer to build it with the chiplets first and then decide if the market's big enough to turn it into a monolithic. So it's a case of where we're at in time that you said it's a no-brainer to stick with monolithic right now.
That's oh no, sorry, I meant the no-brainer for like when you have a big chip, then like if you can, like I think at least from what we're seeing today, if you can justify chiplets solely by showing that you save so much on silicon cost because you like now have much smaller die and it gets cheaper for you, then that alone, if that alone can like tilt the scale towards chiplets, then I think that's what's happening. But oftentimes we're kind of in this middle ground where that alone is not good enough yet to say let's go to chiplets. But if you looked at everything, then you probably would still come to the conclusion, yes, we should do chiplets.
Okay.
So I had one aspect, Anu just left, I saw, but maybe also for the others. In the chiplet architecture section, we had right now broken, like the goal of the section is basically to explain, hopefully fairly concisely to people, the way that chiplets can be leveraged and the way that you can build basically these multi-die systems. And we had started breaking it down by heterogeneous systems and homogeneous systems, and then talking for each of those, why would you want to have multiple die in a package? And basically talked about things like you can do this like scaling approach, or you can disaggregate by function and then reuse, and like the different things that come up. Since then, I had also seen this nice image from Synopsys, which doesn't necessarily go by heterogeneous or homogeneous integration, which is basically just to say, are all chiplets on the same node or are they different nodes? And rather talk directly about kind of the main use cases, such as this scalable SOC, the splitting, the aggregation of functions, and I/O, and this aggregated central chip. And I'm wondering if we should rather like basically write text around this image, because I think to me it's the more natural way how people are currently using chiplets. Any strong feelings about going either way? Okay, doesn't seem to be. So I guess in the end, we're already in our section saying basically the same things, but just organized differently. I think the challenge I'm seeing with the way we have it structured right now is that when you talk about, say, heterogeneous integration or heterogeneous systems, and then mention the reuse aspect, that same aspect is true for homogeneous systems. If everything, say, is on 5 nanometers, then still you can reuse your chiplets. And so right now we have mentioned a couple of the benefits twice because we have it in each section. And I think if we just went by the kind of the reason or the benefit of the specific chiplet architecture, then we would only have to say them once, and that hopefully makes the document more concise.
This one is more towards the partitions. It's not just limited to the homogeneous or heterogeneous. As you can see, there's actually showing the diagram on how the partition of those D2D IO and so on. So that's actually simplify the floor plannings, and then it also illustrates the way if you want to use the existing tool instead of a 3D compiler to do the implementations, that is the natural way of people going forwards in how this partition and plannings. So it's actually a good reference, but it should not be limited to say is homogeneous or whatever. You can put it as a top chiplet architecture before going to homogeneous or heterogeneous system.
Okay, so I guess that so are you advocating to say we should start, if we talk about chiplet architectures, we start with this view of the world and then say those chiplets could be either from the same, like in the same process or in different processes, or should we still start with you can have systems in the same process or others, and then talk about how in each case you can partition the system?
My preference is your first suggestions, but then it's up to you, because it's really depend on how you want to view it first, but then that actually give you the overview of how it actually can happen. And that's even though that, let's say for the first example, the scale and the split SoC is all right. So it doesn't mean that the CPU, both CPU is have to be exactly identical. It can be a bit small core as well, right? So, but then the key point is that it actually on how actually it can be partitioned and used, and the way that it's going to be used, and there's also a highlight on the FPGA usage, maybe a different scenario compared to the normal SoC and also the disaggregated function as well, right? So that's actually give a good overview, and then the rest of the heterogeneous system and homogeneous system is already explained, that should be fine, my view.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Yeah, this is Trent. At the risk of kind of complicating this is actually something we have a lot of discussion about internally in our company, because when we talk about aggregating functions, many times we're talking about aggregating functions that might be in different packages already, and we kind of look at that as, well, what I'm really doing now is creating a SIP, and interfaces exist already, right? And they're not necessarily requiring the chiplet, universal chiplet interface. It could be, just using, MIPI or PCIe or something like that already exists, right? And so it's been, and in fact, that seems to be what we're struggling with is, we're now, especially with integrating things like power and processor or RF with processor, it's not requiring a full-blown UCIe, for example, interface, we can use the interface that we would already use. And so we kind of see it more as when we start to disaggregate, then we're talking about, the higher bandwidth requirements and, potentially maybe that's where the new standards, the chiplet standards would apply. But at the same time, if we are going to aggregate, or we want to be able to make our chips something that someone else could aggregate, then it does require a standard. But the question is a bunch of wires at UCIe the right standard, or would we use what is currently being used to aggregate these functions in different packages? So this figure you're showing, actually, we've actually had a lot of discussion about this, because I think this is quite relevant, actually, as far as the decisions you make regarding the interfaces that you're going to use.
Yeah. Okay, so I think if I understand you're right, you're saying that especially the aggregate functions, one kind of blurs the line between what is truly a chiplet design and what is something that before the buzzword chiplets would have just been another SIP.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think to your point about the interfaces, I guess my view, my personal view is that even in that space that where we today are talking about aggregation using, let's say, legacy interfaces, there may be a market, and this is kind of similar to what Kash is working on with the four lane bunch of wires. Like, I think there's room to have something that's die-to-die optimized to be better on latency and be better on power. Something that doesn't have as much traction yet because most people focus on the kind of the high bandwidth area right now.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take this feedback. I think I would probably consider I'll maybe do a draft and see what people think about it, and just slightly reorient what we have in the architecture section so far. Okay, so I think we're pretty close to 1 p.m. Eastern, so towards the end of the meeting. I think this is a good stopping point. I would say next time I hopefully have we can see, Rajesh, how far you are. We can either then talk more about the test, and I'll also spend some time writing something about the opportunity cost and how that may be measured, and then we can just go through those changes and continuously work towards making this a complete document. And I guess in the meantime, also for others that we mentioned, if you can take a stab at reducing your section, like just compressing it a little bit and making it a bit more concise, that would be great, that we can get closer towards that target of 20 pages.
Sounds good.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Marek.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that Trent just brought up a really important phrase that I don't know if it's in the document, but this idea that a compendium of what decisions you want to make, you're likely to have to make as you think towards chiplets. I know Majid said something about replanning as a product family or something, and Trent said something about this, but fundamentally maybe that's the sort of glue that holds the paper together. This idea that if you're going to move to chiplets, you need to make a family, or you need to make a set of decisions, and that
so make a fancy kind of decision tree that spans like an entire page, and you like pick your adventure and say, like, do you want to do this? Yes, no, like that kind of thing.
Oh no, I'm not sure that we're well informed enough to make that kind of a claim, but at least kind of say you're going to have to decide these things, and the information in this paper can contribute to making those decisions.
Yeah, no, that is a good way of putting it. So then let me start a section, and people can maybe put down, like, to crowdsource the kind of decisions that we've seen in our companies, or like in our experience that would come up. But I like that as an idea.
Yeah, there were two really good points. I thought one, Maji talking about reimagining the product planning and trends about, oh, we face this of SIP versus what is the SIP versus what is the chiplet, and you know, how does that influence the interface decisions? And then I was wading through the notes that you have a summary slide deck which lists some of these from before. But that seems to be the glue. That's a section 2 that's waiting to be formed, so to speak. Hey, these are the decisions you need to make, and this paper can give you the information to make those decisions.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is a good point. Okay, so I'll add those in, and then we can discuss more next time.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.